Natalie's phone buzzed as dirt hit her 8-year-old daughter's casket. The text from her mother read, "Can't make it today, honey. Rebecca's bridal shower is more important. But we need Harper's trust documents tomorrow. Bring everything." Snow fell on the tiny grave while champagne glasses clinked at the Ritz-Carlton across town, where her family celebrated an engagement instead of mourning a child. If this story of ultimate family betrayal and devastating revenge makes your blood boil, smash that like button, subscribe to Formidable Revenge channel, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and comment below where you're watching from. We read every single one. Natalie Rodriguez stood alone at Riverside Cemetery while her daughter Harper's casket disappeared into frozen Oklahoma ground. 18 months of fighting pediatric leukemia, sleeping in hospital chairs, and begging for experimental treatments had led to this moment. Harper, her warrior princess who'd faced bone marrow biopsies with superhero stickers and made jokes during chemotherapy sessions, was gone. The cemetery held 12 people. Harper's teacher Mrs. Sullivan, who'd created special lessons for Harper during treatment. Old Frank Thompson from next door, who'd driven them to countless medical appointments when Natalie's Honda broke down. Dr. Patricia Evans from Children's Hospital, who'd fought alongside them until the very end. But her mother Linda? Her father Robert? Her sister Rebecca? Absent. The funeral director approached hesitantly. "Mrs. Rodriguez, we need to complete the service." Natalie knelt beside the grave, placing Harper's favorite stuffed unicorn on the casket. "I'll protect what's yours, baby girl," she whispered. Her phone buzzed again. Rebecca's Instagram story showed champagne fountains and crystal chandeliers at the Grand Ballroom downtown. Posted 37 minutes ago, exactly when Harper's funeral began. The caption read, "Starting my forever journey. Family is everything. Family is everything." The irony burned like acid. Frank approached, his weathered hand gentle on her shoulder. "That little angel fought harder than most adults I've known. She'd be proud seeing how strong her mama is." But Natalie didn't feel strong. She felt hollow, abandoned, used up by months of medical battles that had drained her savings and destroyed her credit. The only thing left was Harper's trust fund, established by her ex-husband Tyler before his military deployment to Afghanistan. $680,000 meant for Harper's college, her future, her dreams. Now legally Natalie's as the sole beneficiary. Walking to her car, she passed a billboard advertising Rebecca's fiancé's construction company, Thompson and Associates, building tomorrow's dreams. The same company that had refused to give Natalie time off for Harper's chemotherapy appointments, forcing her to quit her marketing job. At home, Natalie spread Harper's trust documents across her kitchen table. Tyler had been thorough, protective. The paperwork explicitly stated that in case of Harper's death, all funds would transfer to Natalie with no provision for extended family access. Her landline rang. Linda's number. "Natalie, dear, I'm so sorry we couldn't make it today. Rebecca's engagement party was planned months ago, and the venue was non-refundable." Non-refundable. Her granddaughter's funeral was a scheduling conflict. "We need to discuss Harper's financial situation," Linda continued. "Rebecca's wedding expenses are mounting, and Robert's business is facing cash flow problems. The trust fund could solve everyone's difficulties." Harper's trust fund. "Well, yes, but Harper's gone, sweetheart. The money won't bring her back, but it could secure the family's future." The family. The same family that had dismissed Harper's symptoms for months, calling Natalie overprotective when she insisted something was seriously wrong. The family that had visited the hospital exactly twice in 18 months. "I need time to think." "Don't take too long, dear. Robert's meeting with bankruptcy attorneys next week unless we find immediate funding." After hanging up, Natalie pulled out Harper's laptop and found something that would change everything. An email Harper had sent to herself 3 weeks before dying. "Mommy, if the angels take me home, I want my college money to help other sick kids get better. Promise me you'll make sure doctors can fix them like they couldn't fix me." Her 8-year-old daughter had been wiser than her entire family combined. Natalie's phone rang again. This time, attorney Samuel Bennett, Tyler's recommended legal counsel. Mrs. Rodriguez, I heard about Harper. I'm deeply sorry for your loss. Tyler asked me to contact you if anything happened to discuss the trust provisions. My family wants control of Harper's money. They have no legal standing whatsoever. Tyler built multiple protections specifically to prevent family interference. But we should meet immediately. Families desperate for money often resort to extreme measures. As if summoned by his words, headlights swept across Natalie's window. Linda's silver Escalade pulled into the driveway, followed by Robert's BMW and Rebecca's red Mustang. They hadn't come to Harper's funeral, but they'd come for her money the same day she was buried. Natalie activated her phone's recording app and walked to the front door. Through the peephole, she saw her family huddled on the porch, clutching manila folders and wearing expressions of false concern. The war for Harper's legacy was about to begin. The doorbell chimed like a funeral bell as Natalie's family arranged themselves on her porch like vultures circling carrion. Through the window, she watched them organize papers and practice sympathetic expressions before she opened the door. "Sweetheart," Linda cooed, pushing past Natalie into the living room without invitation. "We came as soon as Rebecca's celebration ended. We're here to help you through this difficult time." Robert followed, his expensive suit incongruous in Natalie's modest home. Rebecca trailed behind, still wearing her engagement party dress, checking her phone for social media notifications about her perfect day. "We brought some preliminary paperwork," Robert announced, spreading documents across Natalie's coffee table like he was closing a business deal. "Financial advisors, trust management services, investment portfolios. Harper's money needs professional oversight." Natalie remained standing while her family settled into her furniture like occupying forces. "Harper's money is for helping sick children. She told me so herself." Rebecca laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Harper was 8, Natalie. 8-year-olds say lots of things. They don't understand financial planning or family obligations." "Family obligations?" The words tasted bitter. Where were these family obligations when Harper was fighting for her life? Linda's mask of sympathy slipped slightly. "We all grieve differently, dear. Some of us handle tragedy more constructively than others." "More constructively?" "Like planning engagement parties while children died." Robert pulled out another document, sliding it toward Natalie. "We've researched trust law extensively. Given your emotional state and financial inexperience, the court might require professional management anyway." The document was dated 14 months ago, when Harper was first diagnosed. They'd been planning this deal since she got sick, researching how to access her money if she died. "You've been planning this since Harper's diagnosis," Natalie said quietly. "We've been planning for all possibilities," Robert replied without shame. "That's what responsible families do." Responsible families. Natalie remembered their responses to Harper's illness. Linda insisting it was just anemia 4 months after the leukemia diagnosis. Robert suggesting Harper would be fine with vitamins and fresh air. Rebecca complaining that hospitals were depressing and declining every invitation to visit. "Harper asked for you," Natalie said, her voice strengthening. During her last week, she kept asking why Grandma Linda and Aunt Rebecca didn't come to see her. "Hospitals are difficult environments," Linda replied, adjusting her pearl necklace. "We thought it best to remember Harper as she was before all this." Before all this. Before cancer revealed who they really were. Rebecca stood impatiently. "Look, Natalie, we're offering to help manage this money responsibly. My wedding venue alone costs $200,000. Robert's construction company needs immediate capital injection to avoid bankruptcy. We could structure everything as family investments." Family investments. Harper's college fund diverted to pay for wedding fountains and business bailouts. The answer is no. Robert's kindly facade cracked. "Don't be selfish, Natalie. This money could save the family business, secure Rebecca's future, help everyone move forward." Harper wanted to help sick children. "Harper's dead," Rebecca snapped. Dead children don't need college funds. The words hung in the air like poison gas. Frank appeared in the doorway, drawn by raised voices. "Everything all right here, Natalie?" Robert stood, his voice turning threatening. "This is family business, Frank. Not your concern." "Natalie's been my neighbor for 6 years," Frank replied firmly. "Harper was like a granddaughter to me. I'd say this is very much my concern." Linda gathered the documents with theatrical hurt. "We're trying to help you, Natalie. Don't let grief cloud your judgment about what's best for everyone." "What's best for Harper?" "Harper's gone," Robert said coldly. "The living have needs too." After they left, Natalie collapsed onto her couch, overwhelmed by their casual cruelty. Her phone buzzed with a text from Samuel Bennett. "How did it go?" She typed back, "They've declared war." Part 3, Inciting Act of Treachery, 500 words. The sheriff arrived at 7 a.m. 3 days later, his apologetic expression telling Natalie everything she needed to know before he spoke. "Ma'am, I've got papers for you. Emergency petition for guardianship." Natalie's coffee mug slipped from her fingers, shattering against the kitchen floor as she read the legal documents. Her family hadn't just threatened to contest Harper's trust, they'd filed for emergency custody of her, claiming she was mentally incompetent due to grief and posed a danger to herself and Harper's estate. The affidavits attached made her blood freeze. Casey Morrison, her former best friend since college, had provided 3 pages detailing every moment of weakness during Harper's illness. The night Natalie sobbed in the hospital bathroom after Harper's fever hit 105 degrees. The morning she forgot breakfast before a crucial oncology appointment. The afternoon she couldn't remember Harper's medication schedule after 72 hours without sleep. They'd weaponized her love for Harper against her. Rebecca's statement was even more brutal, claiming Natalie had become obsessed with medical conspiracy theories and refused reasonable family guidance. She'd reframed Natalie's desperate research into experimental treatments as evidence of mental instability. Linda's sworn testimony cut deepest. "My daughter exhibits increasingly erratic behavior, including paranoid accusations against family members and irrational attachment to a deceased child's wishes that may have been influenced by medication and grief." Samuel Bennett's voice was grim when Natalie called him. "This is more aggressive than I anticipated. They're claiming emergency circumstances to fast-track the process. Can they actually take control of me? If successful, they'd gain control of all your assets, including Harper's trust, until you could prove mental competency in court." Natalie sank into Harper's desk chair, surrounded by her daughter's drawings of herself as a doctor helping other children. "How do I prove I'm not crazy?" "We fight back immediately. I need every document, every email, every text message from the past 2 years. We're going to expose their real motivations." That afternoon, Natalie gathered evidence methodically. Bank statements showing responsible financial management despite overwhelming medical costs. Character references from Harper's medical team. Documentation of every missed family visit during Harper's illness. A timeline proving their absence during crisis and sudden appearance after death. But at 6 p.m., her doorbell rang again. Through the peephole, she saw 2 police officers with uncomfortable expressions. "Mrs. Rodriguez? We need to speak with you about a complaint." The officers explained that someone had reported suspicious activity, allegations of prescription drug abuse and potential child endangerment during Harper's treatment. "Who filed this complaint?" "Anonymous tip through our hotline. We're required to investigate." Natalie showed them Harper's legitimate prescription bottles, everything supervised by Children's Hospital. But Officer Martinez photographed each medication while Officer Johnson made notes about the quantities. "Some of these prescriptions are in your name," Officer Johnson observed. "Anti-anxiety medication prescribed by my doctor during Harper's illness. It's normal for caregivers to need support." They filed their report and left, but the damage was done. Someone had found a way to make even her legitimate medical care appear suspicious. Samuel called that evening with worse news. "They've scheduled the emergency hearing for tomorrow morning. And Natalie, they've hired Margaret Steinberg." Who's that? Specialist in emergency guardianships. Expensive, ruthless, effective. If they can afford her, they're confident about accessing Harper's trust. That night, Natalie couldn't sleep. She sat in Harper's room, holding her daughter's medical journal where she'd drawn pictures during treatments. Stick figures of herself helping other sick children, hearts and smiley faces decorating medication schedules. Her family was trying to erase Harper's compassionate spirit, turning her final wish into evidence of manipulation. At midnight, an unknown number texted, "Drop your opposition or this gets much worse." Natalie screenshot the message and forwarded it to Samuel, then typed back, "Try me." The battle lines were drawn. The courthouse corridor buzzed with predatory energy as Natalie arrived for the emergency guardianship hearing. Margaret Steinberg, a sharp-suited woman with silver hair and calculating eyes, huddled with Natalie's family near the courtroom entrance. Their whispered conference looked like conspirators planning an execution. Samuel Bennett met Natalie at the security checkpoint, his expression grim. "They've brought reinforcements. Robert hired a private investigator, and Rebecca's fiancé is funding this entire operation through his construction company." "They're that desperate?" $680,000 makes people very desperate. Inside the sterile courtroom, Judge Harrison presided with the detached authority of someone who'd seen too many family destructions. Margaret Steinberg rose for opening statements, her voice carrying practiced manipulation. "Your Honor, this heartbreaking case involves a grieving mother who has lost perspective on reality. The petitioners seek protection for their daughter and sister, who has become increasingly unstable following her child's tragic death." Steinberg painted Natalie as a tragic figure overwhelmed by loss, making dangerous decisions that threatened her own welfare and Harper's estate. She referenced depleted savings, social isolation, and obsessive focus on Harper's care that had alienated concerned family members. Samuel's response was surgical in its precision. "Your Honor, what we witnessed today is not rescue but robbery." While Mrs. Rodriguez devoted herself to saving her terminally ill daughter, the petitioners conspired to exploit her grief for financial gain. The first witness was Casey Morrison, Natalie's former best friend. Margaret Steinberg led her through testimony designed to portray Natalie as increasingly paranoid and unstable. "She accused us of not caring about Harper," Casey testified, her voice small and apologetic. "She claimed we were deliberately avoiding hospital visits, but we were respecting her space during a difficult time." The lie was smooth, reasonable sounding, almost believable. Did Mrs. Rodriguez express conspiracy theories about Harper's medical care? Steinberg asked. She insisted doctors weren't doing enough, spent hours researching experimental procedures online. She found treatments that weren't appropriate for Harper's condition but demanded doctors consider them anyway. Samuel's cross-examination was devastating. "Ms. Morrison, how many times did you visit Harper during her 18-month illness?" Casey squirmed. It's difficult to remember exact numbers." "Would hospital visitor logs help refresh your memory?" Samuel produced a document. "According to Children's Hospital records, you visited Harper exactly twice. Once for 30 minutes, once for 15. Hospital environments make me anxious." "But you had no trouble attending Ms. Rebecca's engagement party the day of Harper's funeral?" Casey's face flushed red. "That was different." "How?" Silence filled the courtroom like accusation. Linda testified next, dabbing manufactured tears while describing concern for Natalie's deteriorating mental state. Her performance was Academy Award worthy until Samuel's cross-examination revealed the family's timeline of absence. But Margaret Steinberg wasn't finished. During recess, she approached Samuel with predatory confidence. "Your client might reconsider her position. We have security footage from the hospital showing erratic behavior. Medical records indicating she interfered with Harper's care. Credit reports showing financial irresponsibility." "Let me guess," Samuel replied. "You'll withdraw this evidence if Mrs. Rodriguez agrees to guardian supervision?" Smart man. Think about it. As they walked away, Natalie felt the familiar weight of powerlessness. They always had another weapon, another trap. But Samuel squeezed her shoulder. It's a bluff. If they had genuine evidence, they'd have introduced it already. What if it's not a bluff? Then we fight harder. The afternoon session would determine Harper's legacy and Natalie's freedom. Margaret Steinberg's laptop projected grainy security footage onto the courtroom's display screen as the afternoon session began. The video showed Natalie in Harper's hospital room, gesturing emphatically at a nurse, her face twisted with apparent anger and desperation. As you can see, Steinberg announced with prosecutorial confidence, Mrs. Rodriguez became physically aggressive when medical staff attempted to discuss realistic treatment options for Harper. Natalie watched herself on screen, remembering the moment with crystalline clarity. The nurse had suggested comfort care only when Harper's white blood cell count dropped dangerously low. Natalie had begged for alternative treatments. When the nurse refused, saying the oncologist was unavailable, Natalie had raised her voice, gesturing frantically. That's completely out of context, Natalie whispered to Samuel. But the damage was spreading through the courtroom like poison. The footage made her appear unhinged, dangerous, mentally unstable. Samuel stood for cross-examination, his voice cutting through the manufactured drama. Your Honor, I'd like to know when and how the petitioners obtained this confidential hospital security footage. Margaret Steinberg shifted uncomfortably. Hospital administration provided it as part of their cooperation with our investigation. Which administrator specifically authorized the release without a court order? Awkward silence. Samuel activated his own laptop. Because I have correspondence from Children's Hospital stating that no security footage was released to any party in this case. Judge Harrison's expression hardened. Ms. Steinberg, how did you obtain this footage? We received it through legitimate channels. What channels specifically? More uncomfortable silence. Samuel's counter-presentation was devastating. Your Honor, I'd like to present the original, unedited security footage from that same date and time. The complete version revealed the true context. Natalie asking the nurse to contact Harper's oncologist about concerning symptoms. The nurse dismissing her concerns, saying the doctor was too busy. Natalie insisting that Harper's temperature spike and breathing difficulties required immediate attention. As you can see, Samuel continued, Mrs. Rodriguez wasn't being aggressive. She was advocating for appropriate medical care that potentially saved her daughter's life. The footage continued, showing the nurse finally paging the oncologist. Dr. Evans arrived 20 minutes later and immediately ordered tests revealing a serious infection requiring emergency intervention. Margaret Steinberg's confidence cracked visibly. The edited footage was provided by a reliable source. A reliable source who deliberately falsified evidence to make a grieving mother appear mentally unstable, Samuel interrupted. Your Honor, this constitutes evidence tampering and fraud. But the most devastating blow came from an unexpected source. Dr. Patricia Evans entered the courtroom during recess, her face flushed with indignation. Your Honor, I need to address this court immediately regarding falsified medical evidence. Dr. Evans testified that someone had accessed Harper's confidential medical records through stolen healthcare worker credentials, selectively copying information to create a false narrative of parental interference. Computer logs show unauthorized access 3 weeks after Harper's death, Dr. Evans explained. Someone systematically violated federal privacy laws to build a case against Mrs. Rodriguez. Samuel presented the digital evidence. Your Honor, the IP address traces to Morrison and Associates Investigation Services, the firm hired by the petitioners. They'd committed federal crimes to steal Harper's trust fund. Judge Harrison's voice carried ice-cold fury. I'm calling an immediate recess while I review evidence of possible federal violations. During the break, Robert approached Samuel desperately. Maybe we can work out a compromise. Natalie keeps the trust, but we establish oversight. An oversight board consisting of people who just committed federal felonies? Samuel replied. Your family is facing criminal charges, Mr. Thompson. Rebecca's engagement ring sparkled as she twisted it nervously. We were just trying to help. You were trying to steal from a dead child. When court resumed, Judge Harrison's demeanor had transformed completely. The petition for emergency guardianship is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering immediate investigation into evidence tampering and referring this matter to federal authorities. Natalie felt relief flood through her, but she knew this victory was temporary. Desperate people with federal charges pending would escalate to even more dangerous measures. Outside the courthouse, Margaret Steinberg's parting words chilled her. "This isn't over, Mrs. Rodriguez. Desperate families do desperate things. The real war was just beginning." The FBI raid on Robert's construction office made front-page news 3 days after the guardianship hearing. Natalie watched federal agents carry boxes of evidence from Thompson and Associates while news helicopters circled overhead like mechanical vultures. But the celebration turned to horror when Special Agent Jennifer Walsh knocked on Natalie's door that evening. "Mrs. Rodriguez, we need to discuss your family's escalation tactics. There's been a development." Agent Walsh's expression was grave as she explained that Robert had liquidated his entire business, transferring assets to offshore accounts. Rebecca had sold her engagement ring and cashed out retirement funds. Linda had mortgaged her house. "They've raised over $4 million, Agent Walsh said. "People don't liquidate everything unless they're planning something extreme." "Like what?" "Like buying false testimony, bribing officials, or hiring professional character assassination services. Your family has transformed from desperate relatives into organized criminals." That night, Natalie's security system triggered multiple alerts. Shadowy figures moved through her backyard, testing windows and doors. When police arrived, they found nothing but muddy footprints and evidence that someone had attempted to access her garage. Samuel Bennett called the next morning with devastating news. "They filed a federal lawsuit claiming you manipulated Harper's final words through medication and emotional coercion. They're seeking to void her email about helping sick children." "They're attacking Harper's last wish?" "They hired forensic linguists to analyze her email, claiming the language was too sophisticated for an 8-year-old. They're arguing you coached her responses while she was medicated and vulnerable." The accusation felt like being stabbed through the heart. They were weaponizing Harper's pure compassion, twisting her desire to help others into evidence of manipulation. But worse news followed. Dr. Patricia Evans called that afternoon, her voice strained with professional concern. "Natalie, I'm so sorry, but the hospital administration has advised me not to provide further testimony. They're worried about liability issues related to patient privacy." "What does that mean?" "It means I can't testify about Harper's mental competency or her conversations about the trust fund. Hospital legal counsel fears being drawn into federal litigation." Without Dr. Evans's testimony confirming Harper's clear thinking and independent decision-making, Natalie's defense crumbled. The medical professional who could verify Harper's genuine wishes was silenced by institutional liability concerns. Samuel delivered more crushing news. "The court has appointed Dr. Franklin Morrison to conduct psychological evaluation of your mental state during Harper's illness." "The same Morrison my family tried to bring to my house?" "Different doctor, but they specifically requested someone experienced in alleged child manipulation cases." Natalie researched Dr. Morrison online, finding a forensic psychiatrist specializing in testifying against parents in custody disputes. His published papers had titles like Recognizing Parental Manipulation in Terminal Illness and Protecting Dying Children from Adult Agendas. Her family had maneuvered the court into appointing an expert predisposed to find her guilty. "This feels hopeless," Natalie told Samuel after reviewing Morrison's credentials. "We're not finished yet. But I need you to understand the stakes. If Morrison concludes you manipulated Harper, you could face criminal charges for fraud and exploitation of a vulnerable person." "Criminal charges?" "She could lose Harper's trust fund and her freedom." Rebecca called that evening, her voice mixing false sympathy with barely concealed triumph. "Natalie, this has gone far enough. You're destroying yourself and Harper's memory. Just sign the trust over and we can all move forward. Harper wanted her money to help sick children. Harper was a dying 8-year-old who said anything to make you happy." The words hit like acid because in her darkest moments, Natalie wondered if Rebecca was right. Dr. Franklin Morrison's psychological evaluation session lasted 3 grueling hours in his sterile downtown office. His clinical questions probed every aspect of Natalie's relationship with Harper, her emotional state during treatment, and the circumstances surrounding Harper's email about helping sick children. "Tell me about your family's involvement during Harper's illness," Morrison requested, his tone betraying nothing. Natalie answered honestly, describing their absence, their dismissive attitude toward Harper's condition, their sudden appearance after her death. She provided the timeline Samuel had helped create, documenting 18 months of medical appointments attended alone. "What was your family's reaction to Harper's prognosis?" "They thought I was overreacting. My mother insisted it was just anemia even after the leukemia diagnosis. They accused me of being dramatic about the severity." Morrison made extensive notes. "And their involvement in her care?" "Zero involvement. 2 visits in 18 months. Yet they're now expressing concern about Harper's mental state during treatment?" "Apparently." Morrison requested Harper's complete medical records, school files, and behavioral documentation from before her illness. Natalie provided everything: report cards showing Harper's compassionate nature, teacher comments about her desire to help classmates, artwork depicting her dreams of becoming a doctor. 2 weeks later, Morrison's report arrived like a thunderbolt that shattered her family's carefully constructed lies. Morrison concluded that Harper demonstrated consistent, age-appropriate decision-making capacity throughout her illness. Samuel read over the phone, barely containing his excitement. Her statements about the trust fund were entirely consistent with documented personality traits from early childhood. The report continued even more devastatingly. Furthermore, evidence suggests significant family dysfunction characterized by emotional abandonment during medical crisis. The petitioner's subsequent legal actions appear motivated by financial gain rather than genuine concern. Dr. Morrison, the expert her family hoped would condemn her, had instead exposed their true motivations and confirmed Harper's mental competency. But the real breakthrough came when Samuel's phone rang during their celebration. Children's Hospital's chief of staff was calling. "Mr. Bennett? This is Dr. Rebecca Martinez. We've discovered someone accessed Harper Rodriguez's medical records through fraudulent means. Federal investigators found evidence of systematic healthcare fraud. The unauthorized access had occurred using stolen credentials from a former employee, systematically copying Harper's medical history to build the case against Natalie. The IP address traces to Morrison and Associates Investigation Services," Dr. Martinez continued. "The FBI's cybercrime unit is investigating federal healthcare fraud charges. They'd committed federal crimes to manufacture evidence against her." Local news stations ran breaking coverage that evening. Federal investigation reveals healthcare fraud in trust fund case. Natalie watched her family's public image crumble as reporters gathered outside their home seeking comments about criminal charges. Rebecca called that night, her voice shrill with panic. "Natalie, you have to call off the FBI. This is getting out of hand." "I didn't call the FBI. Your criminal activities did. We hired investigators to gather information. That's not illegal. Hacking hospital computer systems is very illegal." "We didn't know they would." Rebecca stopped, realizing she'd just admitted knowledge of the crimes. Frank appeared at Natalie's door with homemade soup and moral support. That little girl would be proud seeing her mama fight so hard for what's right. For the first time since Harper's death, Natalie felt something stronger than grief, righteous anger fueled by truth. The tide had finally turned. The federal courthouse erupted in chaos as FBI agents escorted Robert, Linda, and Rebecca through crowds of protesters and media. "Justice for Harper," chanted members of a group called Harper's Heroes, parents of seriously ill children who'd rallied to protect her legacy from exploitation. Federal prosecutor Amanda Richardson approached Natalie before the hearing. "Mrs. Rodriguez, this case represents one of the most callous examples of family exploitation we've encountered. Your daughter's story has moved everyone involved." Judge Patricia Caldwell called the packed courtroom to order, her stern expression promising no mercy for those who'd exploited a dying child's trust. Before addressing civil matters, Judge Caldwell announced, this court must confront the federal criminal charges arising from the defendant's conduct. Prosecutor Richardson's opening was devastating. Your Honor, the defendants orchestrated sophisticated fraud to steal $680,000 from a grieving mother through identity theft, healthcare violations, and computer crimes. The evidence presentation was methodical and brutal. Timeline showing Robert's $50,000 payment to illegal investigators. Security footage of stolen credential use at Children's Hospital. Text messages between family members acknowledging criminal activity. Rebecca's message appeared on courtroom screens. Dad, pay Morrison in cash so there's no paper trail. Natalie can't know how deep we're digging. But the most damaging evidence came from FBI wiretaps. Agent Sarah Kim had convinced Rebecca to wear recording equipment during a final negotiation attempt. Rebecca's voice filled the courtroom. Natalie, we'll give you $100,000 cash to drop the investigation. Robert will fund Harper's memorial directly. Natalie's recorded response, you want to bribe me with my daughter's money? It's not bribery, it's family helping family. We made mistakes, but prison won't bring Harper back. No, but it might prevent you from exploiting other grieving parents. The audio continued with Rebecca becoming increasingly desperate. Robert could lose everything. Is your revenge worth destroying 3 families? You destroyed this family when you chose Rebecca's party over Harper's funeral. Judge Caldwell's expression hardened as the recordings played. When they finished, she addressed the defendants directly. In 40 years on the bench, I have rarely encountered such callous disregard for human decency. You exploited a mother's grief and child's legacy for personal gain. Rebecca's attorney attempted damage control. Your Honor, my clients were concerned about Mrs. Rodriguez's mental state. Their methods were misguided. Counselor, Judge Caldwell interrupted, your clients' motivations are documented in their own communications. They conspired to steal $680,000 through fraud and manipulation. The sentences were swift and harsh. Robert received 25 years for masterminding the conspiracy. Rebecca got 15 years for fraud and bribery. Linda received 8 years for her supporting role. But Judge Caldwell wasn't finished. This court is permanently securing Harper Rodriguez's trust against any future challenges. Furthermore, Mrs. Rodriguez is awarded $850,000 in compensatory damages and full legal cost restitution. Outside the courthouse, Natalie addressed the media for the first time. Harper wanted her legacy to help sick children. Today's verdict ensures her wish will be honored without interference from those who abandoned her in life. Frank waited by her car, his weathered face beaming with pride. That little angel would be so proud of her mama today. As they drove past the cemetery where Harper rested, Natalie felt her daughter's presence not as crushing loss, but as gentle guidance toward a future Harper would have loved. Justice was complete. 1 year later, Natalie stood in the bright pediatric wing of Children's Hospital, watching construction crews install the final pieces of the Harper Rodriguez Memorial Research Center. The $1.5 million facility sparkled with cutting-edge equipment funded by the trust her family had tried desperately to steal. Dr. Rebecca Martinez approached, her face glowing with professional satisfaction. The genetic research lab opens next month. Harper's Foundation has already funded breakthrough studies in childhood leukemia treatment. Through observation windows, Natalie watched young patients receiving care in rooms decorated with Harper's favorite underwater theme. The walls displayed murals of friendly dolphins and colorful coral reefs, transforming the sterile hospital environment Harper had endured. How many families have we helped? Dr. Martinez asked. 63 families received emergency housing assistance. 41 children got specialized treatments insurance wouldn't cover. We funded 8 new pediatric oncology fellowships. Each number represented real children, real families who wouldn't face the financial devastation and isolation that had nearly destroyed Natalie and Harper. Emma, a 7-year-old patient, approached with a drawing of herself in a doctor's coat. Look what I made. I'm going to be a doctor just like Harper wanted to be. Natalie's heart swelled as she examined the artwork. Harper's dream lived on in children she'd never met but whose lives her legacy was already changing. That's beautiful, Emma. Harper would love knowing you want to help other kids get better. Frank appeared in the corridor, now 83, and serving as the foundation's volunteer coordinator. "How's our girl doing?" he asked, nodding toward Emma. "Responding well to treatment. Going home next week. Harper's watching over all these kids. I can feel her spirit in this place." That evening, Natalie sat at her kitchen table, drafting her response to Victoria's letter from federal prison. The handwritten pages had arrived that morning, filled with what appeared to be genuine remorse and details about Rebecca's prison therapy programs. "I destroyed our family for money I didn't even really need," Rebecca had written. "Robert's business was failing anyway. The wedding was just an excuse. I think I was jealous of how much Harper loved you, how you were such a good mother when I was too selfish to even want children." The admission surprised Natalie. Jealousy had motivated Rebecca's actions alongside greed, envy of the bond between mother and daughter that Rebecca would never experience. "I'm not asking for forgiveness because I don't deserve it," the letter continued. "But Harper's Foundation has inspired other inmates here. 3 women started studying for their GEDs after hearing Harper's story. Even in prison, her legacy makes a difference." Natalie folded the letter and placed it in Harper's memory box, uncertain how to process Rebecca's apparent transformation but grateful that Harper's influence continued expanding even into federal correctional facilities. The first anniversary of Harper's death arrived with spring sunshine and blooming flowers. Natalie visited the grave with armloads of sunflowers, finding the headstone decorated with small gifts from families the foundation had helped. A teddy bear from Emma, now in remission and starting 2nd grade. A drawing from Marcus, whose experimental treatment had been foundation funded. A poem from Sarah, whose family received housing assistance during her brother's bone marrow transplant. "Look what you built, baby girl," Natalie whispered to the headstone. "Look how many kids you're helping get better." Frank joined her at the memorial bench they'd installed beside Harper's plot. "She'd be so proud of what you've accomplished. Some days I still can't believe we actually won." "Honey, you didn't just win. You transformed something ugly into something beautiful. That's not victory, that's grace." As sunset painted Harper's headstone golden, Natalie felt genuine hope for the first time since the diagnosis. Her phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Martinez. "New research results are promising. Harper's Foundation funding may have contributed to a breakthrough in childhood leukemia treatment." Walking back to her car, Natalie passed fresh graves where new families began similar journeys. Tomorrow she would reach out, offer support, ensure they didn't face battles alone as she had. The Harper Rodriguez Foundation operated on the principle that no family should endure medical crisis in isolation. Every service provided, every dollar allocated, every family supported carried forward Harper's essential message: helping others heal helps us heal too. At home, Natalie found a hand-drawn card from Phoenix Elementary students. "Thank you for helping sick kids like Harper wanted to do," signed by 37 third graders who'd never met Harper but understood her legacy. She placed the card on her mantle next to Harper's photo, another reminder that her daughter's influence continued expanding in ways she could never have imagined. Standing at her kitchen window watching sunrise, Natalie finally understood what Harper had been trying to communicate during those final weeks. Love doesn't end with death, it transforms into something larger and more powerful than any individual life. Harper's love had become a foundation helping children for generations. Her memory was protected not by legal documents but by the lives she continued touching and healing. Her family's war against Harper's legacy had backfired spectacularly. Their attempts to steal her trust fund had instead ensured its permanent protection and massive expansion. Their cruelty had inspired a community of support that made Harper's impact far greater than it could have been otherwise. Harper had won not through revenge, but through love transformed into action. And in helping others heal, Natalie had learned to heal herself. The Harper Rodriguez Foundation would continue Harper's work long after Natalie was gone, ensuring her 8-year-old dream of helping sick children would echo through eternity. Her legacy was safe. Her love lived on. And somewhere among the sunflowers in Natalie's dreams, Harper was smiling. The end. If this story of justice, family betrayal, and ultimate triumph moved you, smash that like button, subscribe to Formidable Revenge channel for more incredible stories of people who fought back and won, and share this with someone who needs to hear about protecting what matters most. Comment below, where are you watching from, and what would you have done in Natalie's situation? We read every comment.